Ms. Wiley, welcome to our Pix 11 studios, and thank you for participating in our forum.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, and I really mean that. Like, it's a pleasure to be here, not on Zoom.
Absolutely, absolutely. If elected, you would be the first woman mayor of New York City, the second African-American person, so you would certainly be a history maker. But given your ties to the current administration, tell us how you would truly be a change maker.
So I am the child of civil rights activists. I went to law school to be a civil rights lawyer and spent my time at the ACLU, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, working for decades as a civil rights advocate. And I've done that my whole career. So I've been a change maker outside of government, working on government, and spent 2014 to 2016 in city government and as a change maker there. You know, I was really grateful to be able to show city government how to do things it had never done before, like universal broadband, right? There's no agency of the city called universal broadband. And so getting agencies to work together, finding the budget lines, getting every single apartment in Queensbridge houses free broadband, that's change making in government and also after government when I left 5 years ago.
And how would a Wiley City Hall differ from a de Blasio City Hall? Just one specific issue or way in which you depart from your former boss?
Well, look, I'm going to create the Office of Open Space Management. You know, as we've seen in COVID, right, one of the things that was an important opportunity, both for us to get out into our own communities safely, for some of our restaurants to be able to stay open, was in the summer when we had open streets and when we let restaurants spill out onto the streets. But it also created some tensions, you know, where and how we had businesses that lost some business, but also how we want to use the streets to solve transit deserts, to make sure we have more buses and faster bus routes, so communities that don't have enough transportation can get connected to the subways. That's what I'm going to do in creating an office so that all those agencies work together to get it done.
Thank you. I want to take a look at your time with the Civilian Complaint Review Board. The most high-profile investigation during your time with the CCRB was into the death of Eric Garner, and we put together a timeline here. You took over the board 2 years after Garner died, and you resigned a few days before the CCRB recommended charges against Officer Pantaleo. So what was your specific role in this process?
My specific role in that process was getting Daniel Pantaleo's case over to the New York City Police Department with charges. I was not going to leave that position until that case got over to the NYPD. You know, when I walked in the door, that case had been languishing. If I had been mayor, Daniel Pantaleo would have already been off the force. You know, fortunately, being able to be in that position and independent civilian oversight, I did the work, and I also did the fight to hold on to a unique power that the New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board has, which is we have our own prosecutors in that agency that are former assistant district attorneys from around the city, highly qualified, excellent attorneys, to make sure it was civilians who prosecuted the Daniel Pantaleo trial inside the police department. I had to fight for that. I won that fight, and I left knowing that that case was going to finally move through the process.
Thank you. Henry?
Staying with policing, you've proposed defunding the NYPD by $1 billion, but I want to show you some recent surveying we did of New Yorkers. It shows that 70% of people would like to see the budget increased or kept the same. Only 30% want to see it decreased. You can see it on our graphic right there. Make the argument to that 70% as to why you are right.
Well, first I want to correct you just on one thing, Henry, which is I have never called for defunding the New York City Police Department. What I have called for is a balance in making sure that we have police focused smartly, effectively, and efficiently on the job of policing, because safety is job one. But that part of that safety is also making sure people are safe, particularly if you're black and brown in this city, from police abuse, and making sure that we're investing in communities in all the ways that actually make sure that there are opportunities, that we're not losing a generation of our kids.
So to that point, I would ask, and you can get into those details, absolutely. Is it more of a shifting of $1 billion that you're proposing?
Exactly.
So give us one or two specific bullet points where the police would lose and a different program you're proposing would gain, specifically.
Absolutely. So we are going to, first of all, make sure that we are not hiring the next two classes of cadets with that shift in resources, we are going to make sure that we have trauma-informed care in our schools and that we're doubling the number of summer youth employment in communities where we have high rates of gun violence. Because what we know, and I've been a professor of public and urban policy, so I do the research and I look at the facts, that brings violence down and sends graduation rates up. And that's what we want in this city. We want a win-win, and that's what we're going to have when I'm mayor.
Ayanna?
Thank you, Henry. I want to talk to you a little bit about housing. New York City, our court system, they told us that before the pandemic, there were 200,000 eviction cases pending in the courts. And at this point, the courts don't know what those final numbers will be once all of the moratoriums are lifted. So would you have the city get involved to help these New Yorkers financially? And if so, what would that look like?
Yeah, I put out an eviction moratorium policy early on in this campaign. It's been out for months, but I've been very explicit. As someone who's been a civil rights lawyer and focused on racial equity, you know, one thing we know that we have to do, Ayanna, is both prevent evictions, because the homeless crisis we have in this city is an eviction crisis. It's because we don't have enough affordable housing that people can afford. We're going to work on that. But we're also going to prevent evictions in a way that takes the relief dollars we have coming from Washington, thankfully, but utilize it to subsidize our homeowners, our small landlords, so that they can pay their mortgages in exchange for not evicting their tenants. The other thing I'm going to do is increase the people who are eligible for free legal services, because we know that when people have access to a lawyer, and far too many can't afford it, that it brings evictions down. And so I'm going to make sure we have a balanced approach so people can hold on to their homes, but we can also keep people housed.
Thank you, Maya. Henry.
While we still have a few minutes left, I want to get into education. You've called some of the high school and middle school screening processes we use in our public school system discriminatory. How do you fix that?
By ending them.
So no more testing across the board?
No, I didn't say no more testing. I said no more discriminatory practices. So no discriminatory policies or practices. And if tests do not have validity, sufficient validity, and they are shown to discriminate against our children of color, or our children with disabilities, or our children who are homeless. We have all kinds of categories of our students that deserve a full and excellent education. We're going to eliminate them. But the other thing we're going to do is what parents have asked for, particularly parents of color, but all parents, which is to bring class sizes down. I'm going to hire 2,500 more teachers to bring that class sizes down, particularly for early childhood education and K through 5, because we know that improves educational outcomes. It also enables us to find what kinds of supports, if a student has a learning disability that's going undiagnosed, easier to find it and make sure we're getting supports for those students.
To button up one issue I know a lot of parents pay attention to, yes or no if you could please, and we'll move to some other topics. Would you continue to operate more than one school out of the same building in the city?
I probably would, yes, but we're also going to make sure we have more space so that we can bring class sizes down.
Ayanna?
Do you support a New York City coronavirus vaccine passport? And if so, where should New Yorkers have to show a passport before they can get inside?
Well, look, I am going to lead with anything with regard to health care with the guidance of public health experts. You know, that's where it all has to start. And right now, what's so important is that we are getting much better vaccine penetration. That's important. We have a summer now where we can be partnering more with our faith-based institutions and leaders, with our community-based organizations, trusted institutions, and our doctors. I had a conversation with a doctor in Washington Heights trying to get vaccine for a community that needs it, hasn't been able to. We got to fix that so that we have more people vaccinated.
And so then on the vaccine passport, is that a yes or a no?
That's when I talk to public health experts, what they direct.
Okay, and New York City public school students, when they go back to school in September, if they're eligible, will you require them to be vaccinated for coronavirus?
Well, I'm going to work, first of all, and the way I would focus is making sure every student had the opportunity to get the vaccine. Remember that that's still an issue right now. We've got to fix that. But we've also got to make sure that we're following CDC guidelines. And right now, the requirement of vaccination is not, as I understand it, in the guidelines. But we do have to have social distancing. We have to make sure we're doing everything to ensure parents and students that it's safe to come back.
And what about teachers, yes or no? Would you require them to be vaccinated?
Once again, I'm going to follow the public health guidelines, and I'm going to work very hard to make sure everyone is. I've been double vaccinated. I've been making sure everyone knows it's safe, it's effective, and I want to make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure everyone can get it.
Thank you, Henry.
We have a little less than a minute left, so quick answers if you could, please. Yes or no, would you vote for Governor Cuomo if he ran again next year?
No.
Broadway's coming back.
Yes.
What are you seeing?
Whatever I can.
How many tickets? How many tickets are you holding?
4.
4. For which? Give us 2 of the shows you have.
Oh, you mean currently?
Yeah,
no,
currently.
I'm sorry. I'm bringing 4 people.
You're bringing 4
my
people.
family. We are all going to go. I don't have tickets yet.
Okay. Well, what, musical or play? Any thoughts?
It's going to be a musical.
Ms. Wiley, thank you for spending some time with us. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.